Mine as a character really brings out the anger deep within me. Like, I was Naofumi in this episode. When he got angry and he just wanted to vent and, just basically destroy the country, I was like him. Because mine is such a despicable person. Now, when I say she's despicable, I'm not saying she's a bad character as in bad writing. It's just she's a character that really angers me. Honestly, the last time I got this angry with a female character in a piece of literature, I think was Rachel from Tower of God. If you've never read Tower of God, I do recommend it. Very good series, by the way. I mean, it's actually, in some ways, if you do like a Sekai series, or if you like fantasy series, you might like Tower of God. But anyways, the point is that mine as a character, oh my god, like, she really got me angry because how the entire country was going along with what she did, not just from the first episode, but what she did in this episode when she was messing up the duel between, the spear hero and Naofumi. I'm like, really? You're just gonna let this fly? You're just gonna let, mine get away with this? Spear hero, are you that naive that you didn't notice what she did and then you're gonna think that he's lying or whatever? I'm just like, are you serious right now? I'm just like, this dude he's annoying. He really annoys me, and so does mine as well. But let's get into some of the things that happened in this episode. So, can we take a moment to talk about how messed up it was to pit, the spear hero against Naofumi, the shield hero? Let's look at the levels for a second. Naofumi is like in the low 20s of his level. And you have the spear hero, which is in the 40s. I think he's 43. I'll have the image on screen. That's absolutely freaking ridiculous. Like, holy crap, that's ridiculous. If you have ever played any RPG in your life, any RPG, MMO, or whatever, you know for a fact a 20 level plus gap might as well be impossible to beat. Like, for instance, if you're to go up against an opponent 20 levels higher than you, you're going to lose. There's no way you're going to be able to fight that opponent, because in RPG standards, or MMO or whatever, 5 levels to 10 levels higher, you're not going to win regardless, especially in a PvP standpoint. I mean, this is how a lot of MMOs are, or even RPG games when you're going out there trying to hunt certain beasts or whatever for your quest. Stuff like that is insane. Levels do matter. And so seeing Naofumi as a low level 20 versus, the spear hero, which is a low level 40, I'm like, this is certainly balanced. This is a balanced fight, clearly. I mean, they're definitely wanting to have some true balance with this fight. It's not just the fact that the shield hero can't even fight back. You have someone that's literally, 20 levels higher than him fighting him, that it has an offensive build, and is a spear hero, which was actually meant to get around shields and attack the opponent. Literally, it was the worst matchup for Naofumi, because like I said, spears were meant to go around shields. So, really now? But, okay, let's look at the logic of this duel. So, the whole reason why the duel happened in the first place was because mine implanted inside of the spear hero's head that Naofumi is controlling Raphys. He's controlling her actions. She's a slave. She doesn't have any free will whatsoever. And obviously, thinking that, he's doing a good deed, he decided to go out of his way to try to challenge Naofumi to get back Raph, for she will no longer be under this evil man, which is Naofumi. Now, we gotta look at the bigger picture here, okay? Number one, we gotta remember, in the first episode, Naofumi, he is someone that did something very despicable to a woman. Now, we know the truth. As the audience, we know the truth. We've seen it firsthand. But everybody in the country believes that Naofumi is an absolute scumbag. And so him having a slave, it really doesn't look good on him. I mean, regardless of how we know how Naofumi is, his actions speak louder than his words. We know for a fact, from the outsider's perspective and seeing him without knowing really anything about him, he does look like a scumbag having a slave, especially after what has been spread around town and the country, that he has done something very despicable to a woman. So when you look at all these factors, it makes sense why the spear hero would go in to try to stop Naofumi. Fine, I will agree with that part alone. But let's look at the bigger picture, expand it even further out. If we look at the laws of the country and what this country is built on, it's very apparent that demi-humans, they don't have rights in this country. They're discriminated against. There's a lot of prejudice. I mean, like I've talked about already in the past couple of reviews I've done, you know, you had shops, when they tried to enter the shops, it said no demi-humans allowed, which meant that there was segregation. There couldn't be demi-humans wandering around in the town. They didn't have proper rights. They were discriminated against, so they were not welcome. And then we know for a fact, majority of demi-humans that we have seen already in this series, they're they're slaves. And there was an entire slave auction where Naofumi, at the end of the first episode, went to a slave auction to purchase a demi-human. So when you look at all these little factors, the reason why slave trading is going on is thanks to the country allowing it, which was mentioned in this episode, that slaves are not illegal in the country that Naofumi is in, which this is the messed up part about this duel. Now, I understand where the Shield Hero is coming from. He did make, in some ways, a solid argument. He's like, regardless if this country allows slaves or not, does not mean that you should have it as a hero. And what he was trying to mean by that is that we come from a world that doesn't have stuff like this. We come from a world that does not allow acts like that. It's not right. And so, obviously, he was coming from a moral high ground, like, hey, you know, our world doesn't have slaves, and just because they allow it here doesn't mean we should go into that practice and start doing that. That's what he was trying to say. But he was taking a moral high ground around Naofumi because he felt like he was just. He was doing a good deed, and he was trying to seem like he was a good guy. Now, one of the things that's despicable about this is, like I said, the country, they completely are fine with demi-humans being enslaved. They don't give a crap whatsoever. The only reason why there was a problem in this episode was because the king and mine, which, by the way, we found out in this episode, she is a princess, we found out that the reason why, you know, this even happened in the first place is because they don't like Naofumi. They legit don't like the Shield Hero. They've just constantly put him down, made him feel like absolute human garbage, and so he just doesn't know what to do. And so they're in on it together, just pushing him down, even though the country allows things that Naofumi was doing in the first place. So, it's messed up. And you're like, really? Like, you're really forcing this man into a duel when if this would have been anyone else, this never would have happened in the first place? But I do like Raphtalia's logic at the end of the episode after, you know, Naofumi lost and, you know, she was technically being ripped away from him. I like what she said to the Spear Hero. She's like, you know, if you care so much about slaves and all that, okay, why don't you have someone like me in your group? Like, why not? Why don't you have someone like me that you have saved from the slave auction, have fed, gotten healthy again, and allowed them to level up alongside of you? Why don't I see any demi-humans a part of your party? That's what Raphtalia was trying to imply to the Spear Hero, and he did get choked up in that moment. He's like, wait a minute, I don't really have any demi-humans. He's like, wait a minute, and, you know, he's just like, he looks over to Mine, and then Mine just interrupts him and says some really, you know, racist stuff in that moment. I'm just like, wow, are you that dense, Spear Hero? Do you not see what's going on here? The only reason why you don't have a demi-human in your party, even if you might be a decent enough guy to probably help out a slave, is because your party doesn't want a demi-human because of how the country runs. So, when you look at the entire situation, you know, Raphtalia proved a lot in that moment and really just exposed the Spear Hero and the other heroes as well for how crusty they are and not even trying to help someone out like in Raphtalia's position. And also, another thing too, is that in this episode, we are shown that the bow hero and the sword hero aren't as despicable as we first thought they were. Now, they're not necessarily allies, but they are not completely trash like they were in the first episode. And the reason why I say that is because they are the ones to rectify the situation when Naofumi and the Spear Hero. They're like, look, you know, someone did tamper with this duel. Mine did. There was wind magic being used, and basically says that, you know, the Spear Hero did in fact lose, and the Spear Hero is just breaking out. He's like, well, I lost. You know, he's acting all upset and all that, and I'm just like, well, yeah, someone cheated. The only reason why nobody listened is because the king told everybody to, you know, not say anything, because he has political power to make sure that happens. So seeing the bow hero and the sword hero come in and actually point out the crappy logic that everybody's using against Naofumi made me pretty happy. I mean, that redeems them in some ways, but at the same time, I do think they realize that there is more going on here than meets the eye. It does seem like Naofumi might be judged more than he actually deserves, thanks to how this country is operating around him, how they're handling his entire situation. Now, speaking of how the country operates, I do like how in this episode it reveals a little bit more to the government and how it's run in the series. We see the king and how he basically announces this entire duel, and we also are revealed to a pope, which is also overseeing the entire conflict. Now, we don't really get much dialogue or anything from the pope or any information at all in this episode, but we do clearly see that there is two big, positions of power in this country, and it shows that this country is run on probably religion, but also, like, royalty as well. Now, I do wonder if these two positions of power are coexisting, or if they are in some ways rivaling each other, because this reminds me a lot from the Overlord situation later on in the series, to where you have, let's say, like, two factions competing with each other for power. Like, you have the nobility, which is like, the king or whatever, and the princes and princess, and then you have the monarchs, or people that have wealth and all that, like the business people that control certain portions of the country. I do wonder how powerful the church is alongside the king, because when you look at this episode and the way it's depicted, it shows that the Pope in some ways most likely is in a similar position of power like the king. So Naofumi, he lost, obviously, thanks to not legit means, which eventually was corrected later on, and did show that the king and mine, they had no remorse whatsoever for what they did when they were finally called out on the crap they were doing. But the point stands is though at the middle half of the episode, Naofumi lost, and he was lost in thought. He was depressed. He didn't know what to do, because, he, in that moment, lost everything. He already lost everything in the first episode, and he was finally making a comeback. He was finally starting to level up. He had someone that would fight with him. He had a party member. He was progressing as an individual. He was being able to find out more about the world, make positive impact on the things around him. But in that moment, when he lost against the spear hero, it reminded him of what got him in this position in the first place. How people continuously push him down and make him feel like absolute human filth. And when he did lose, he's like, I just lost my sword. I just lost my party member. And when that party member erases on his screen and he realizes he no longer has her, he's like, I can't do anything. I can't fight. I can't do anything. These people, obviously, no matter what I do trying to save them, they don't want my help. And he's just like, I just want this country to be gone. And in that moment, he unlocks a new cursed series, or a shield series, or skill tree, which is called Cursed Series. And it makes you wonder, what exactly is that about? I'm assuming it has something to do with, like, rage or whatever, because there is little elements into the opening song that does reveal that he has a problem with his rage. And I'm assuming that's going to connect with his anger he's had since the first episode and this episode with the Cursed Series. Because in that moment when he just wanted everything gone, that's when it unlocked. It said requirements met. So I believe that it has something to do with his anger, his rage, or just, wanting to see everybody burn after what has just happened in this episode and in the first. But let's talk about what he saw when it came to him looking at Raphys. When he was looking at her, he saw a childlike depiction. Now, many in that moment might be confused, and myself included, I was confused when I first saw that. Like, I just took a moment for me to really grasp what was going on here, until later on in the episode, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. See, if we backtrack, in the last episode, the episode before that, when Raphys, she was a kid, and then after leveling up or whatever, she became an adult, many are like, whoa, how do you not know that she is grown? How do you not know that she is no longer technically a kid? The blacksmith did try to point it out, but obviously, Naofumi wasn't really listening, and Raphys did kind of stop him in that moment. And when he's looking at Raphys, when, he realizes he's about to lose her, he sees a child version of her. And that is technically what he's seen the entire time. See, Naofumi, he's never looked at Raphys like an adult or someone that's old. He's always looked at her as if she's a child when he first got her a part of his party. And so when he sees this clouded slave-like vision of her, that's what he's always seen. And so at the end of the episode, when he finally looks at Raphys and you see her child appearance basically disappear and she becomes an adult in his eyes, and he's asking, whoa, who are you? Are you the same person? Are you really, Raphys? He's asking these questions. It's because he finally sees her for who she really is. It's not just the fact that he doesn't see her as a kid, but he sees her for who she is. He actually, in that moment, trusts her. He trusts her for who she is. He realizes she is a really good person. He wants to get to know her. He wants to protect her. And, you know, he knows that she will be with him no matter what. So in that moment, so many things change for him, and that's why at the end of the episode, when he eats food, it's not just because Raphtalia made it for him, it's because she also gave him hope. She opened up his eyes to where he's not clouded by nothing but darkness. He's not surrounded by it constantly. He now has, in some cases, some good in his life, which that is what Raphtalia represents. So, yeah, it's a really good episode. I like the depiction of that. It's a really powerful moment. Probably my favorite moment of the episode, when you just see the man hunched over, you see the silhouette of Raphtalia as a kid-looking, like, silhouette, and then you see how he's just by himself, and you see how the shield starts to have fire coming from it. It reminds me a lot of Dark Souls, actually. I don't know, it reminds me of the bonfire or whatever, when you just want to give up or whatever. That's what it looked like to me, but, yeah. So, Rising of the Shield Hero. What a wonderful series. This has really been a fun series. I've loved this show, and I can't really wait to see what's going to happen next, because there's just so much build-up. It makes me wonder, will the Spear Hero eventually find out his wrongdoings of what he's kind of doing to the Shield Hero? Will Mine and the King ever get punished for the despicable acts they have done? There's just so many questions I have, but it's a really good freaking episode. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And with that, I love you guys. Please be safe. Chibi out.